buckle up because I feel like this one is about to get wild. Kelsey Riggs cuff, Dalen cuff. Yeah, I had a vision for where we were going, and partly based off of the topics, partly based off of what I thought your mood was. But you just like got your second wind over here.
Yeah, this is going to be hour 3 of talking, and it's 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. So we've done a lot of talking this morning, and
which had you down here. But I feel like your day's right before he's about to go to bed, and we're like, wait, is he tired anymore? Because he's running laps.
I think that's what just happened. I don't know. We got a second wind. We're ready to go. We're ready to talk about our thoughts, our feelings, and emotions with vigor, and with intensity, and with transparency.
Wow.
And then we're going to talk for 3 hours more a little bit later. So we're ready to go.
So do you want to go ahead and get your thoughts, feelings, and emotions on the table? And let's just be honest with the audience and say that we cheated on them. And we did do this last night on the couch.
Yeah, last night was less forthcoming. So I just got home from a 2-hour drive after calling a game.
He was a little crabby. So I was like, do you want to talk about it? And he said no. And I was like, cool. What are your thoughts, feelings, and emotions?
And you just stared at me afterwards. It was like, oh, so we are doing this. Yeah.
You needed it, even if it was brief. The conversation ended up being longer.
Because I think I had something on my head and my heart I wanted to talk to you about. I just didn't want to do it at that moment.
What was it? Are we doing it now?
No, we kind of aren't. Well, the religion piece. We kind of got into that.
Yeah.
We went to church.
I was like, wait, I thought we...
Because we kind of just... I feel like I said a couple things as briefly and tersely as possible. And then you kept staring at me. And then I went into war.
No, and then I shared.
No, is that what happened?
And then after I shared, not briefly and tersely, then you opened up more.
Yeah, there you go. So
sometimes we pull each other out of it.
It just takes a minute. And I think I was partially like, man, tomorrow's going to be a really interesting, long day. And today was a long day. And we're looking forward to the week. I was just in a little bit of a funk, yes. But right now, I think my thoughts are I'm excited might be a strong. That's all I feel like. I'm interested in where this conversation is going to go. I'm interested in what your reaction will be or some of the thoughts. I'm not even sure how I think or feel. So there's a think or feel about some of the church religion piece. So we might be parsing through this in just real time, which I don't know. Those things, I think sometimes who knows how that goes, but we'll find out. So there's an uncertain feeling. Maybe that's where I'm like energized because I just don't know what I'm like excited for like, what's this going to look like? And then, my emotions are, we are attacking the day with vigor. We had a negative outlook yesterday night. We're having a positive outlook. I enjoyed the 2 pods we've done already. And we're going to crank through and continue to just endeavor. That's one thing I will say about this is that the podcasts that I do are so different, like mentally and emotionally, what you talk about, that I think that there's some invigoration around that too. It's like, one's with my boy and very sports, but life and our family focused. The last one is business focused. And then our thing is us and our feelings and our thoughts and our emotions. It's just a very different thing. So I guess I'm uncertain yet excited, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. That was good. Thank you for sharing. I think
sharing. I don't think you've ever said that to me before.
I know, I was kind of being funny.
Thank you for sharing.
That's why I laughed when I said it. Thank you for sharing again after you didn't want to share last night, but you did. My thoughts are excited for the week, I think. I think like there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of new opportunity and a lot of just nostalgia for me. We're going to Myrtle Beach, where my career started. Got my first job out of college in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And to have like my family going back there, like taking a baby, it's such a family place that I was so grateful for that first job there. It was an hour and a half from my family. It was a beach town. I met some lifelong friends and had incredible opportunities and experiences, but it just was never like the place for me. But there were all these families that were always come. So now like thinking about taking days to all of these places that I would be like, oh gosh, it's tourist season, this is about to fill up. I don't know. There's like an excitement about that and nostalgia. So that's really cool. Feelings are, I am grateful for you. For out here just grinding away. I know last night you came home, you had a long drive to and from Boston to do that job. that you're excited about, but you're also like busting your ass trying to do all of these things. And then here you are this morning, like you said, third recording of the day, you're doing radio later on. You're working really hard. I think that it has showed itself for you in a lot of ways and with your career, and is going to continue hopefully to lead to even bigger and better in the future until we come up with our $1 million idea or put it on paper and, figure out what we're going to do one day to really just get out of the rat race, even though we like our jobs. But I'm grateful for you. I know that it's a lot, and I feel like maybe even though it, I think it's important to say it, because it is monotonous sometimes of just all the things that we're doing. And emotions are all over the place. I'm excited about this conversation, especially the kind of religious piece that we're going to get into. I'm also anxious about this conversation just because we're going to start with kind of bigger and some hard, again, of the last year. Really honestly, I guess the one really hard thing that we haven't shared from the last year. So excited but anxious right now for this TFEs.
Before we get serious or get into different topics, though, I've never been to Myrtle Beach.
Oh, I don't think I realized that.
I told you that the other day. When I was a kid, we've talked about this in the pod before. We go to Hilton Head. A lot of people in Pittsburgh, where I was from, South Hills, they would drive to Ocean City, Maryland. People always drove for vacations. People now, I guess, that's just what we did. And then some people would drive to Rehoboth Beach. Some people would most people would go to Myrtle Beach. That we knew. That's why we didn't go, is because most people in our town seemed like they drove to Myrtle Beach at some point. All I know about Myrtle Beach is the Dick's Last Resort shirts. That's all. That's literally almost the only thing I'm aware about. There's just was it even a restaurant? Like, what is it? But as you see him as like a fourth grader, fifth grader, like, it says Dick on that shirt. Like, that was like notable.
Was it Dick's Crab Shack? That's what you're talking about.
No, Dick's Last Resort that's like Dick's Last Resort Myrtle Beach. I'm almost positive it's right there.
I'm gonna look at it while you're saying that.
Because that's, unless I'm conflating that place exists. I just saw it in Indianapolis for the first time in years. I saw one of those, Dick's Last Resort. It's like a bar restaurant.
Are they mean to you?
I don't know, but it says Dick in the title. So as a young kid, that seemed cool to me. That seemed memorable to me.
That's funny because it was, that is still a thing.
Boom.
Yeah.
And she questions me.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's what I know about Myrtle Beach. But I'm excited about the trip.
That's interesting.
About the work assignment. It should be great.
I don't know anything about this. Looks like it's in North Myrtle Beach. I guess I didn't frequent it while I was there. But
because it wasn't your last resort.
It was not my last resort. Okay. Wow, you're hilarious. Myrtle Beach is going to be good. So I'm looking forward to that. Bigger picture. We had a couple of different conversations about what we wanted to get into here. And one of the things that I brought up was that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Obviously, I feel like with this podcast, we talk about mental health in a lot of ways without ever directly being like, how's your mental health? I don't think we necessarily just like look at it and call it what it is. And for me, when I think of mental health, the Mental Health Awareness Month, my brain, especially in this month, a lot of times goes to the bigger things, the things that people are continuously struggling with or long-term struggling with, or when there are really serious things or thoughts of self-harm or things that can be really scary and detrimental to someone's life. But I know that mental health encompasses so much more. And I feel like over the last couple of years, that conversation has kind of broadened and expanded, just because there are so many different levels, I think, to mental health struggles. I think athletes have done a really good job of raising awareness to that. I think of some of the ones that have stepped away and just said, I can't do this right now. I need a moment. And it doesn't have to be when you reach your breaking point and you're at the worst part of your life. It can be kind of along that struggle. I think we've had some struggles over the last year and a half through some of the hard things that we've experienced that have made us reflect on our mental health and talk about it. And as we were having this conversation, I thought it was interesting what you said about, yes, there are struggles, but you feel like you are more equipped for those struggles because of so many of the changes that you've made in the last couple of years to your life.
Yeah, like I think there's the stigma is becoming less around admitting I need help, I need therapy, my mental health is not good. And when you can't pinpoint a thing or an injury, especially as a male and a former athlete, that was like a moment. That was a thing of weakness. And that stigma, through some things you just said, I think has changed over the last 5 or 6 years. I think that was one of the positive byproducts of the pandemic, is people being like, there's a lot you can deal with that's not physical, that was magnified by that period of time, that helped move people, whether it was Simone Biles struggles with different things. There's been a bunch of different things societally and people that have helped move that conversation forward. The question of how is your mental health, when I think back to like 2019, it would have been an insane question to ask me. If you were asking anybody asked that, for me to ask myself, it would have been immediate, yeah, I'm good, without any real assessment of what's going on. I don't think I had the tools, the wherewithal, the understanding, the emotional capacity to answer the question honestly and at all effectively. I think especially in public to somebody else, or not in public, even in private to somebody else, means you're going to be vulnerable. You're going to open up and say all these things that are making you feel this, whatever way that may be. I just wasn't going to do it. I just didn't understand the value of it, or just always, if things aren't good, you just push your head down, you go through it, you push through it, everything's forward. That was it. And then assess why things went wrong and then how to make them better. There was never a real assessment on, why do I feel this way? What's going on mentally? Why am I struggling with this? Why am I self-medicating with that? Or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think that was part of what we talked about last week, is when you hit like a rock bottom, or a place where you're just like, I need to make some changes, and there's some self-realization, and there's a real look in the mirror and be like, is this what you want to be as a person? Is it what you want life to be? When you don't like what comes back, then hopefully you find ways to change that. And I do think most of that does start mentally more than physically. Even if you want to make physical changes, it starts with how you're kind of feeling mentally about yourself and life and your path forward and your prospects and how you handle things, all that stuff. So I think that part of that process, with starting with therapy personally, willing to ask myself these tough questions, willing to change, having people come into your life like you, my amazing wife, and others that supported that change, or pushed or questioned or asked or cared for, was critical. Because if not, like, I just wasn't in a great spot, and I would have remained in that spot because that's what I thought is how things would be, and I would have handled it, quote unquote, in my own way, which was detrimental, to say the least. It's
interesting to hear you say all that. For me, just from my perspective of my life, because I feel like I'm someone who maybe just biologically, or whether it's nature versus nurture, like I was more equipped to deal with my emotions, but I didn't necessarily take steps towards all of those tools. Like I haven't had a therapist. I've always talked about how important I think therapy is. I've always joked that I love it when people open up to me, because I think talking is so important, and I open up to people. But I hadn't necessarily sat down, the intentional, how do I better myself through hard things? And I feel like I've tried to do more of that lately. I joked before about my New Year's resolutions and journaling and things like that. But I do think from, finding a therapist, from you and I talking about different things, from taking care of my mental, physical, trying to prioritize more of those things, and inevitably always falling short. There's a million more things that I need to do there. But it's interesting because I feel like I'm someone who maybe felt more equipped, but then when the hard shit has happened, it's rocked me. Mm-hmm. And I think the religion is a part of that. I think that I've found myself more grounded through things. But bigger picture, last year and a half of our life, I shared a lot of what happened since January of last year, when we had that first miscarriage, and that we've had another one this year. And fast forward a few months later to May, and we went home to Charleston because we thought my grandfather was going to pass away. Mm-hmm. I'm just smiling, and people are like, why are you smiling when you say that? Because we got another, 8 more months with him. Yeah. After that. So that memory in itself always makes me smile, because it was like a living tribute to him. We were home at his house, and then he made this miraculous turnaround, and we got so much more time with him, which was just so special. But that was another hard in the time. The miscarriage had happened. We were navigating that as best we could. I don't think that I was navigating it particularly well. I feel like I was figuring it out. But like, I mean, even still to this day, those are things that are still like, whenever I talk about him, will make me cry. Then the papa got sick, and that just felt like another huge hit. And then we were home in Charleston, and Dace got sick. I like literally feel like I want to throw up talking about this right now. It's so weird. Because I think about it, I'm like, that in that moment literally was the worst day of my life. It was so scary. He got sick, just a normal sick, had a fever, and they always tell you if their fever is above 104, bring him in. But obviously, if it's below that, then it's okay. You alternate medicines, and we were doing this, and it was the second day of his fever. You had to fly back that morning, and I was home alone at my parents' house with him, and his fever just, for whatever reason that day, was not responding, was not going down. And I'd called the doctor, and I said, it's not going down. It's still 102, 102.7, somewhere in there, but it's not going down like it was before. And they said, keep monitoring it as long as it's not above 100.4. He took a nap. I let him sleep on me in the bed, which I don't normally do. And then afterwards, I was questioning if he got too hot from being too close to me. But that was the only way he would sleep. He woke up from a nap, and my mom, thank God, like literally it was God, just randomly decided to come home and check on us and see how he was doing. And she walked in the door. He wasn't doing great. I told her he wasn't feeling well. She was holding him, and I walked into the kitchen to get his next dose of medicine, and she just started screaming that he was shaking and having a seizure. And I just remember like being so terrified, just running over there and calling 911. And, at the time, this was 2 weeks before he was turning 1. And we called 911, and, you're just chaos. You're just screaming at the operator to tell us what to do to help us. And we ran him into the kitchen because the only thing I could think is that it was because of his fever, and I was trying to put water on his head to cool him down. And she just kept saying, I can't help you. We're like, what do we do? How do we lay it? What do we do? She was like, I'm not a doctor. I can't help you. They're on their way. And we're like, well, when are they going to be here? And when something like that happens to your child, like a second is a day. It was awful. And as we're screaming and trying to figure out what happened and talking to him and looking at my baby while his body is trembling, his whole face turned blue. He wasn't breathing. I just remember looking at him and thinking that he was going to die. Like, I thought that was it. I was so scared because I didn't know anything about it. And that's part of why I want to talk about it. Obviously, mental health. And when I talk about it, I'm still traumatized. But because I didn't know, and the knowledge that I've gained from this, I feel like has given me some power. And I want to make sure that others know in that situation what to do. I'm not a doctor. We'll get to that, whatever. So thank God the EMS got there. It felt like it took forever. And at that point, he had stopped having a seizure. It lasted, I think, under 2 minutes. It felt, again, like forever. But then he was just laying there. And I learned that after you have a seizure, or at least this type of seizure, it's called a febrile seizure from a high fever. Very common in children, which I always knew you have to be careful with high fevers, but I didn't know why. I knew that this was a possibility, but it wasn't over 104. So anyways, afterwards you're in this like dreamlike, like catatonic state. So then he was just laying there looking at us and not responding and staring. And then I thought he was brain dead from the seizure. And thank God the EMS got there at that point. And actually one of the police officers that responded was a family member. And so they told us, this is okay. He's going to wake up. He's going to come out of it. He's going to be scared, and talked us through it. But it was the worst moment of my life. Like thinking that you didn't know. And there was nothing you could do. We talk so much on this podcast about things that you can't control and what you do. And like, I felt like I had no control, but I also didn't have the control because I didn't have the knowledge. So real quick before we move on, not a doctor, but
Play one on podcast.
Play one on a podcast right now. Thank you. I needed that. What we learned is all you can do is roll them onto their side in case they were to throw up to make sure that they don't choke. And one of the most important things is making sure that you keep track of how long the seizure is so that you can relay that to the doctors. We found out from a not very nice emergency room doctor as she just downplayed everything. We were thinking or feeling, oh, you don't really have to call EMS if this happens again unless it's more than 5 minutes. And I was like, F you. I will call if it's 4 seconds, which my pediatrician said that lady's crazy. He would call after 4 seconds. So, but the point of that is I guess they can't actually administer medicine unless a seizure lasts more than 5 minutes. Seizures can last upwards of 10 minutes before there's real damage that's caused. So knowing all of those things, I feel like gave me a little bit of power. That there's not anything that you can do other than these small steps, that knowing how long it is goes a long way. And then also knowing that when they come out of it, it will be scary because they will be off, depending, I guess, on the seizure, they will be non-responsive, essentially, even though you can tell that they're awake and that the seizure has stopped. To me, that knowledge is power and honestly has helped some with my mental health moving forward. The next time that Days had a seizure, I remember like walking out of the room and you just holding me because I was hysterical because I was so scared that it was going to happen again. But I knew, okay, if this were to happen, hasn't happened again. Hopefully that was just a one-off. Most kids, if they have it, sometimes they only have one. So most of them at least outgrow it by the time they're 5, and it doesn't mean epilepsy necessarily or anything like that, increased odds. But the way that moment in that day affected my entire mental health, honestly, like with the kids moving forward, I feel like I am still so much more on edge about sickness with them. And we've talked about it. I've talked to a therapist about it and I've tried to work through it. And I try to like turn my smart brain on and be like, okay, if XYZ happens, it's okay. But I think mental health too isn't necessarily, like you said, like when you hit rock bottom, it's when something traumatic happens and like, what do you do to figure out the response to that?
Yeah. I don't.
Sorry, that was a lot.
That is a lot. It's fine. Yeah. Let me say sorry. Yeah, I think that therein lies the challenge, like because it is our brains and nobody's ever all wired the same way. And these different experiences, trying to navigate. Okay, so you mentioned before, like what are the tools or the people to help you mentally go through this thing and not have it be so debilitating or so impacting you going forward. Because I think some of that is you do get really stressed when he has a fever, and it's a lot of focus on what that temperature is. I wasn't there. Obviously you called me like freaking out, and it was scary as hell. I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, I don't know what's going on. That call was just like,
I think my mom called you. I don't even think I could.
I could hear you. You guys are both just yelling.
Oh yeah.
Like there was almost nothing coherent, which was a really scary call to get, because it's like they said a seizure, and then you hear you yelling, and there's not a lot of. And then I think the EMS came as I was on the phone.
That's what I was just thinking about.
So then it's like they're trying to calm it down. That's why I think it was just frantic, and I have no idea what's happening other than he had a seizure. Now I'll come back to my little brother's epileptic, so it wasn't as foreign to me, but I wasn't there, and it's scary when it's your child, and it's a different story, and you have no idea. So yeah, I think it's part of it is how do you handle that traumatic experience going forward, and how does that, like many things I think with mental health, is like how do the experiences we had as kids, as young adults, as adults with our family, whatever they may be, how do you manage that going forward, and how do you overcome that in some regards? How do you not let it consume you in some regards, and how do you continue to live like a productive, connected family member, person, whatever, individual as you navigate that journey? Because it never goes away. None of these things go away from us. They are never forgotten. It's just how do you manage them? And I think that's the whole challenge. And that part of that is because everybody's different. Everybody's wired different, different thoughts and feelings and experiences. There's no like one size fits all. That's what makes this whole, and you can't see it, and you can't like straight up diagnose it all the time easily. It's that's what makes this whole thing so complex, which is also so important that people are talking about it more, and there's not as much a stigma on it because nobody can figure this thing out on their own. Like in terms of how to make their mental state as healthy as possible. It's not like anybody's healthy, but as healthy as possible to feel as good as you can and be as productive as you can.
You just said, how do you manage that? And I think that is one of the most important things for me when it comes to mental health and trauma and grief and experience is, for me, it's not getting over it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay that every time I talk about a miscarriage, seriously, that I'll probably cry. Mm-hmm. I'm okay that every time I talk about Dace having a seizure, I'll probably cry. To me, it's not like being emotional about an experience is not showing that you haven't dealt with it. To me, it's figuring out how to manage what happened then and continue to move forward, not get over those feelings. Because grief doesn't go away. Trauma doesn't go away. Hard things don't go away. They're not something that you put in a box and you get to tape it up and ship it off and then you never think about it again. Those things stay with you. It's like they're in your pocket, okay? And like if you have a time where you reach in your pocket and you see it's there, it's like, oh, okay, it's still there. How do I handle that?
But I guess I get that. But I guess and I'm not telling. But I guess part of when I say manage it, I mean that it's in your pocket. But every time Dace has a fever.
Yes.
You're not pulling it out and then affecting your decision making.
I agree.
Which sometimes can be but it affects the decision making as it relates to him and the family. What may not actually be in his best interest in that exact moment. It's because we're carrying other stuff into the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's an awareness of knowing that this happened, and again, then like talking through it, like whether it's the seizure, whether it's when we get pregnant again and the fears surrounding that, whether it's bigger loss and grief. And anxieties and fears. I think like knowing that they exist, but also being able to figure out a way, like you said, to move forward and to push forward from them. Because I feel like we have done that. I feel like even when it comes to like the seizures and Dace, like, yeah, when he has a fever, he's going to take medicine. That's not me. That's the doctor saying when he has a fever, he has to take medicine until he's 5 to make sure that he doesn't get a high fever and to try and prevent this from happening again. But again, to me, even like that's a tool, we before that, as soon as like the first sign of a fever, we weren't giving Dace medicine. But like, to me, that's a tool that also helps with that thing that's in my pocket, because it helps me know, okay, like we're doing what we can to help him, and knowing, okay, if this were to happen again, it's very common. It can be fine. It will be fine. All of these things. Because we've talked to the doctors, because we've talked about it, because I've talked to friends who have experienced it and things like that. And I think that's where a community comes in as well. And part of like why I wanted, like after this happened with Dace, I found out of 3 other friends who it had happened to their child. And I was like, dang, I wish I had heard something, like no fault of anybody's. And one happened right after mine. Like, I wish I would have heard this, just because I feel like that equips you more to handle the trauma and the hard in the moment when it comes your way, if you know whatever it is that you're not the only one, because that. But
well, yeah, I think anything with kids when they're going through different stuff, whether it's an illness or a challenge with development anyway, that makes you feel as a parent like they are not okay, or they are it's been something debilitating to them, whatever it may be. Anytime you know that this is common, it changes your perspective on things. I think it doesn't make it necessarily easier to see him in that state and to see him go through it, but I think it's the knowledge of knowing like this can happen, and if it happens, he will be okay. That's therein lies like some of the traumas when you don't know and you see him, and when you said before to me, which is like it's so scary when you're like his face was blue, like that's a lot. Like that's, you think you're seeing your baby die. Like that thought I can't really comprehend. But when you know that, wait, hold on, this looks awful, but this happens.
Yeah.
And he'll be okay. Now, if I can, in just knowing that, would I think made this experience less traumatic. It would have made it certainly less traumatic. It would have made it, not in the moment. I think already when it's over, it's a matter of like, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. Not like, is this the end? That's a different conversation.
Well, and it was a conversation I had with the pediatrician afterwards that it like took me a long time to spit out how scared I was about that moment, and saying like he wasn't breathing, he was blue in the face, and for like to be able to say that out loud, very traumatic, very scary. Will never get that image out of my head. But for him to say, first of all, like, he's just a great person, and to recognize, like, hey, that's so scary. I understand how, I know that was horrible. But then to explain, like, that can happen. And yes, they're not breathing, but it's different than if you're choking. It's like the body's way of protecting itself and the brain shutting down. And let me not try to explain it in the way that he did, because you're
playing it on podcast.
I'm playing a doctor on a podcast. Right. Don't take medical advice. Don't take anything. Google all of this yourself, but be equipped.
Google all of this. That's not the advice either. No, Googling
and ask your pediatrician before it happens so that you are better equipped than I was.
Google all of this yourself.
But I mean, you could. I mean, I'm not saying to act off of Google, but to at least have information off of Google. You can get Mayo Clinic things off of Google. You can read.
I'm aware. You also can get other shit, but go ahead.
I play a doctor on the podcast. Just leave me alone.
That's what you should be doing.
I am playing a doctor on the podcast. And he says that, telling me that even if it were to, because that's what I said, if it happens again, I'm scared of this. Knowing that even if it happens again, even if it gets to that thing, these are the reasons why it's happening, and it's different. And I feel like that helps too. But bigger picture, that was the moment. And then that moment, we've talked about how it has affected my mental health moving forward and kind of the steps. But I feel like in that moment when it happened, after the miscarriage, after we thought we were going to lose Papa, right before his first birthday, the most traumatic thing ever. Thank God I was in Charleston with all my family there. I just kept saying, like, why is this happening to us? And there just kept being this, like, huge mental toll of, like, kind of like, what's next? And then also why? I just feel like I felt that weight all the time in this, like, cloud, and not like depression, but definitely more anxiety. And it just hit me in different ways that I felt like, we've kind of had gotten into a little bit of, me anyways, a tailspin sometimes over all of the negative things that were coming our way.
Can I, before you transition to a broader conversation that you're about to have, can I bring some levity to this?
Yeah, please. As I'm like wiping snot off of my
get your snot out while
nose.
So
cute for those of watching at home.
Sexual. So
thanks, babe.
My oldest brother's an orthopedic surgeon, and at the time I was 18. We're having Thanksgiving dinner, about to have Thanksgiving dinner at my house. My little brother's 14, little sister's there. Other old brother was not there. He was in college, I think, he was somewhere. I don't know. He wasn't with us on Thanksgiving. Anyway, it's us and my parents about to eat Thanksgiving dinner. My mom says, "Hey, go get Darren, my little brother." So I go. He played the drums, and his drum set was in my parents' room, like in their. They had a walk-in closet, so the thing could fit in the walk-in closet.
Did you see my face when you were saying their drum set? His drum set was in their room.
There was one place to be, in the walk-in closet. I'd like, because he could shut the door and it wouldn't be as disruptive to the family. Other than that, anywhere in the house, it was just chaos. Like, you can't
think
have
of a
that.
more annoying instrument to have your child play as someone who played the drums. I was a drummer in a band.
What was the name of the band? Bracket.
The Heart of a Woman.
I can't. Please don't.
Anyway, sorry.
The thought of you playing and singing. It's frightening. But anyway, mom says, "Go get Darren." So I walk in. I knew he was playing the drums. I didn't hear anything for like a few minutes. I walk in the closet, I open the door, and he's laying on the ground. He's like foaming at the mouth, and I'm 18 years old. I go running out to my brother, my family, and I went out there and just said, like, something's wrong with Darren. You got to go. And like Garrett gets up and runs in there. He's the doctor, so I'm looking at him more, and then my parents follow, and Derek walks in.
Had he had seizures? Like,
no, never had a seizure before. At that point,
oh, that was when.
Okay, that I remember. Maybe when he was like really little, but I feel like if I was 10 or 11, I would have known after that. But anyway, Derek walks in. He's having a seizure. He rolls him on his side. He's like saying, mom's freaking out. Like, we'll figure out why, but he'll be fine. Yeah, we'll make sure. So he stops seizing after a few minutes, and he's in that like catatonic state and foaming at the mouth and all shook. And we're like, wow, my God. Derek's very much a doctor at the time. I mean, he was still in med school, but just like, he'll be fine. It's okay. We got to go to the hospital. And my mom's like, what? We got to go to the hospital? And he's like, yeah, we got to go to the hospital. Like, he has a seizure. We don't really know why. We need to go either call 911 or just, that's a cost. Let's just put him in the car. We can drive to the hospital ourselves. And it's Thanksgiving. We're about to eat Thanksgiving meal. Classic Italian mother. Maybe he's just hungry. Do you think he needs to eat? I've never seen Derek look more seriously, like at me and my dad. Just goes, "Can you guys leave the room? I got to talk to Mom." I was just like, okay. So I walk out, and my dad are like, "Wow, that was crazy," and I shut the door. And literally 2 minutes later, they come out, and I go, Dad, look back, and Derek goes, "We're going to the hospital." Okay, you stay here with Dana. Mom and Dad and I are going to the hospital. So they leave. They come back like 2-3 hours later. He's just resting. Everything is fine. Thanksgiving dinner was like wrapped up, if you will, and then we came back, ate it, and we got ready to eat. Darren's laying down. He's not ready to eat any food yet. Mom is not happy about that, but he's laying down. And we're about to start eating. Derek just goes, "Dude, you were shook." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You ran out of that room and you yelled, 'Man down! Man down!'" I did not. He said, "Yeah, man, you yelled, 'Man down, Darren, Darren.'" I was like, "What?" You had never seen anything like it.
You say, man?
And I'm like, "I did not." He goes, "I swear, I was not shook. You were screaming as you ran out here. 'Man down, Darren, Darren.'" So we need to go running over there, and you're like, "Something's wrong." That was the next thing you articulated, but you yelled "man down" when your little brother had just had a seizure, and you didn't know how to handle that. So, to your point, when you don't know what you're expecting to see, you can be really shook. And I can't imagine if it's our little baby, but I know how I acted with my little brother, and I clearly did not handle it well. And I blocked all that out. As I said when I was telling the story, I thought I walked in and said, "Something's wrong with Darren."
Right.
No. "Man down, man down."
So you're telling me it was actually a blessing in disguise that you had just gotten off of a plane when this happened. You were
Clearly, apparently, I wouldn't have been ready for that either, because I didn't know that was a thing with little babies, and I would have, I guess, known it, but I might have been yelling "man down" again, which we didn't need in that moment.
We did not need that. I needed it right then. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, glad you got that story in.
Yeah.
The bigger picture place that I was going is I think through all of this, felt like, and you can stop me if I'm, grouping us in together, but I feel like there was something more that we were searching for. And there was actually...
I think you should speak for yourself here. I think we're in a different spot.
Okay, well then let me come back to this, because there was a specific conversation that I remember us having, and I think it was after all of this. And obviously plenty of other challenges, co-parenting, divorce, all of those things that like grouped into the heart of what we've had in the last year and a half. And there was a time where I remember laying in bed and we were talking, we were frustrated about some things. And I said to you something along the lines of like, you've tried therapy and therapy helped. Like you turned to therapy when things weren't working. Like if religion is something that other people find that helps them, and it is another potential avenue to better yourself, to make yourself feel better, to look at life differently, to experience life differently, then why wouldn't you at least try that if you're willing to try therapy? Not that they're the same thing. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
So for me, my religious foundation has always been there. And then I feel like sometimes because of the job and the travel, we're not here on Sundays. I can't go. I feel like in some ways I've lost touch with it. I've moved. I had a church that I loved in Charlotte. I found one that I liked when I lived in West Hartford. We were trying to find that here in Fairfield. But for me, I've always known what I'm grounded in, and that I, believe in God, and my faith is also what, I at least try to help guide me. I feel like you're in a different place.
Yeah, I do remember that conversation, and I think being open to it, but being open to it at the time, it's like in theory, I wasn't really necessarily ready to go.
You were like, "Oh, that's an interesting, good point." Like,
as I've said before in the pod, when things are really hard and people of faith, I have like, there's almost a little, not the strongest envy of one of the 7 deadly sins, but close to that, where you're like, man, I'm really jealous of the fact that there's this place and feeling you can go to, that there's a reason, there's a higher power, or there may be whatever it is. I'm like, I admire that ability to be grounded in that helps you through these challenging times. For me, it's just been like, because I grew up Catholic, as we talked about this before, but I went like on a church revolt, or not a religious revolt, particularly against Catholicism, and whether that is in the money, the power, the history of all that stuff. has, in my mind, like corrupted religion in my head. Because when you say find religion, I still believe like religion and religious institutions are easily corruptible. They're run by people. The Bible was written 400 years after Jesus died by a group of men that I think met in Nicaea and decided these are the Gospels. Like, that's a little bizarre to me. But when you actually talk about finding God or a relationship with Jesus or God and finding a spirituality and like a belief, that I think is very different. And I think that's kind of what we started here in the last, couple. We went to church. We tried to go to a church, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. Didn't feel it because I'm not going to go to a Catholic church again. You were not raised that way, so that actually helps us kind of find the similar spot. And I think when we've gone the last couple times to the church here in Fairfield, the Black Rock Church, there's nothing wrong saying that, because I think it's been really good. And I think that what has been strange for me is like I have to turn off my brain and like disassociate my brain, because like you can learn all these things, you can be skeptical, you can not have faith, but ultimately there are a lot of really smart people that are like, well, you don't know anything. So like, let's turn that part off. Let's go in with an open heart and open mind and like see how this makes you think, feel, and what emotions you have of being in this community. And then afterwards, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? I've been like a little shocked at my like physical and emotional response to it. And I don't know, this is where you like the faith piece, and like I know I haven't told you this personally, so it's great that we're doing it on a podcast. It's strange to me. So I'll put it this. So when we leave yesterday, I had to drive right to Boston. We've talked about your psycho rides where you don't put anything on, or you don't have a podcast on. Like, my life always operates in what's the next thing? What's the next way to prepare? I just sat there for like 25 minutes driving and thinking about things and think about how I felt in church. And it's like you start to put pieces together and be like, all right, you were in this, the sermon was good too. It was talking about drifting away and coming back over time. I feel like I don't really know what I want to say right now. I'm just saying a bunch of stuff.
Perfect.
Yes and no.
No, it's coming across well.
And I feel like obviously I was, operating at, we talk about when you look at your life, this is the person you want to be, this is the way you want to operate, this is the way you want to live. I want to make all these changes and did all those things therapeutically, did them from like an intellectual standpoint, did them from an emotional standpoint, haven't done them from a spiritual standpoint. Is this like the last step, if you will, of trying to become the person you want to be? And when you sit there in church and you listen to a sermon about drifting and Paul, when he's saying to the Colossians, it connected with me and made me think like there are people that are brought into your life at certain points in time that impact your life and open things up. And I wonder, like, it's where it's like connected, and you say God or higher power. It's like all that has happened in the last couple years, some of it's precipitated from me, but this last piece I think is precipitated from you. Like, if you weren't my partner and weren't found grounded in faith, we're not having this conversation right now. And I'm not sure where it goes, but I feel like I feel like more like being around those people, like in worship and stuff. And I'm not singing. I don't know what you think I'm thinking when I'm standing there, because I'm not singing. I'm just like, I'm feeling a lot. And that's what's interesting. I didn't think I would feel that way. And I don't know if it's like a connection. I don't know if it's you're feeling the presence of God. I don't know what it is, but it's hard for me to articulate, and I'm doing it now in a public forum, which is very strange. But I'm feeling something, and it's good. And also, I think afterwards too, though, that I think is when I was talking about like turning off your brain, you can turn off the skepticism. But when you listen to the words that the preacher's saying and you think about our life and the world and the person I want to be or the partner I want to be, and talking about patience and endurance through challenges and living a life worthy of God, like I wasn't doing any of that stuff from the ages of, when you look at drifting away, I think I was a better person as a kid. And then you become an adult and exhibit a lot of characteristics that are selfish, self-centered, lack of care, lack of patience, lack of all these things. And he listed 7 things. I'd be like, man, which ones of those were you exuding in life that you are proud of, or you think that's like who you want to be? Wasn't many. So I do think that there's, there's a lot of feeling there, but there's also a lot of thinking and reflection. And then also think, okay, so how do we What do we do going forward that's different other than go to church or read this passage or think about this more? Like I think the response I've felt in the last 2 weeks, the 2 weeks we've gone, is way greater than I thought it was going to be. And I don't really, it's strange to articulate that because here's my problem. Here's my challenge is I know if I heard somebody talking like this and I'm listening to the pod, my skeptical thing is so present. My cynicism so present. I'd just be like, all right, do whatever. But it's different when I'm saying or how I feel. It's like, yeah, you don't really believe it. You may not care. That's the bigger thing. But it's like, this is how I feel. So I don't know if it's a lot. I said a lot there.
You did. I obviously am emotional hearing it. I care a lot about you. So I care a lot about your spirituality. Because I want us to be together forever, ever in heaven one day. Mm-hmm. So hearing you say that it's moved you like makes me emotional just because, it is something that I think what has grounded me, especially lately after this last miscarriage that we had, is I just keep feeling like, and again, maybe you're right. Someone listening would be rolling their eyes hearing this, but for me, it's like, is this the purpose? Did we have to go through all of this hard? Because I thought that I was like living a life that I was happy about and proud of and good enough and faithful enough and, doing enough for other people. And you had worked through enough were becoming the best version of yourself. Like, did we have to go through all of that to like actually feel this? Like, to get to the next level, to be more grounded, to be more rooted in faith, to like, again, I guess to be like really blunt and religious on this podcast. Like, did God do all of this to bring us here to him? Like, to have you, like, did you have to hit rock bottom there to like be like, I don't know what else to do. I'm open to this. And then you walk in there and that's why you're feeling it. And that's why you're open to it. That makes me feel hopeful. That makes me, feel excited about going on this journey. Because like, even though I'm rooted in faith, there's a lot of things. And I still have like weird skeptical, like not even just like the cynicism and I guess realist stuff that you have of like your history background and how does all of this make sense? To me, it's also like sometimes when you hear people talk about religion or, people are posting about church and all of these things, you're like, oh, well, they're going to be different now. Mm-hmm. They're different. Like, oh man, they've really gotten religion and they're like, who are they going to be now? I think we're so scared that like religion is going to change us to the outside world that sometimes it affects like what you allow it to do inside, if that makes sense.
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I've thought about them. That's part of what I say about in the car. I was like, would I be different outward? Like, am I going to, like, if I, like, it's almost to your point. It's like, am I going to be a different person if I really pursue this? Like, with like my head and heart? Is that
and
okay?
You're probably scared, not you, but me too. Like, you're scared of the pressures of like, oh, if I'm saying that I'm religious, I have to live up to a certain standard all the time. I have to stop saying the F word on the podcast. Not just because Kelsey says that, but because that's what God wants.
Well, that I think is the balance of this. It's like, some of those things, like saying the F word, does God really care if I say the F word? No, I don't know. But does he care if I'm a good person? Yeah. Like if you actually feel penance for your
all sins are created equal, so,
Well, there you go. Is the F word a sin? Really? I mean, I don't know. Profane. I'm sure that's listed in the Bible quite a few times. But lewd and lascivious behavior. Those things I think are different. So like I think that's like, yes, I think that was part of the contemplation. I was like, I wonder like if I do like, how would that be different? And I don't think I'm ever going to be the person that's on the mountaintops, I don't know, screaming about God. I don't think that's me, but I think there's like who knows? This is the very beginning of a spiritual or relationship journey, I think. And we'll see where, I guess my thing is, we'll see where it goes. But from like a very skeptical person that has a lot of cynicism around religion, I guess my physical and emotional and mental response to going to church twice was a bit shocking for me.
Makes me really happy. I will also say that it's giving vibes of, like probably what it's going to be like when the kids are teenagers and they don't want to hang out with us anymore and we're not cool. And then all of a sudden they're like, Dad, do you want to take me to dinner? Or yeah, Dad, do you want to go grab dinner or go grab ice cream? And you're like, yeah, let's go grab ice cream. And then you're looking at me like, oh my God, they want to hang out with her. Maybe that's me, and I'll have that relationship.
Well, Lyra's never going to do that to me. So I think we're fine. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
My point is you try to play it cool. And then you're like, oh my God, this is so great. Like they want to hang out with me. Like, but be cool. That was me when you were unprompted articulating, what time was church? Is it 9? Okay, so we could go to church, and then would you be okay driving separately and I could leave straight from there to go to Boston? And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever you want to do. And then internally I was like, wow, I'm really excited that, because I knew you were interested, and you had been on board, but I am usually the one that's like, do you want to go to church on Sunday, or we should find a church, or let's do this. So when you had already thought in your mind of like, not just do you want to go, but how am I going to make this work on a very long day already where I have to drive to Boston, do a game, and drive back the same night, and that was something that you wanted to prioritize. I was like the parent that was like trying not to embarrass you in front of your high school friends and be like, yeah, it's cool, let's do that.
You know how you've played it a lot less cool though? It's so obvious. Is the first, like, if we went, whatever was it, 2 weeks ago, as soon as we get in the car afterwards, like my butt hits the seat. What'd you think? And like I'm in complete process mode still, being like, what do I think? Why did I feel all that? What am I feeling? What's going on? Like there's a lot of questions, and you're like a little chihuahua just ready to Yesterday I'm literally driving in my, as I just said, my meditative state here, just like in silence, thinking about things, up Route 15. Phone rings because you have to get in the car and call somebody, and I was like, of course you went with me.
She get it from a mama.
It's insane. But yeah, as soon as you called, it's like, what'd you think? I was like, I don't know. I wasn't ready to share. That's what's weird. I wasn't ready to share it. I don't know what I thought, so I'm sharing it now, which is a little strange in public. I did a little last night, so you had some inkling of where I was going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's been odd because it's like I'm not actually I wasn't trying to get you too excited. I actually said that to my therapist yesterday. I was like, or what it was, because we went for she's asked about church the last couple of times. I think they don't tell you what to do, but I think she's alluded to, like, I think this would probably be like something you should explore.
Kathy's my girl.
There you go. Well, you say that, but I don't know.
Does she hate me?
No.
What?
But you're like, she's never on your team, not on anybody's team. She's just trying to, help hear what she's hearing.
Spiritually, she's on my team.
There you go. But she, she made that. She's like, how was it? Whatever. And she's like, what was Kelsey's reaction? I was like, I haven't really talked to her about it much. I don't want to get her too excited because I'm not sure where I'm at, and we're going to go again on Sunday. And I don't, like, if I tell her it was really good or it was great, I feel like she's going to be, through the moon, through the roof, and I don't really know where I'm at. So
okay, but
I'm telling you now because we went again, and I felt a similar or stronger feeling, so it's worth telling you that. And
well, thank you.
Telling these people who are listening to us that too.
Give me a little bit more credit because I didn't hound you. I did ask you as soon as we got in the car, and I did call you as soon as I got in the car this time. Part of it, why I wanted to know again, is because it was while it was the same experience, it was a different worship band this time. It was a different preacher this time. So I wanted big picture, what did you think about all of it? And I don't know, I just feel like everything feels warm and welcoming and sincere there. And it is a bigger church, and some of those quote unquote mega churches I feel like have
that's a mega church?
I mean,
it's not that big.
Yeah, but they have 4 services? I guess it's
when you
the
say
idea.
mega church, I'm thinking the ones that have they have
yeah, you're thinking elevation,
a huge
that are nationwide. Yeah, I think it's a smaller big church.
Yeah, I think it seems like a pretty big church. Maybe,
I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry. Because they change it, big picture. It's a church.
Yeah. Because I just wanted to know, it was a slightly different experience than the first time we went. So I wanted to know your big picture thoughts. But it's a friendly. It just feels warm and welcoming, and not as big as it is, and as many people are moving in and out. And there's a coffee shop and place for all the kids to play and everything. It doesn't feel too big. I don't know. I like it there.
Well, the thing that's good about it too is honestly, when we went to that, I'm not going to mention the other church that we didn't really care for, but when you're
I liked the other one, but
did you? Well, the thing is, I would say when they put down the screen and you're not in person anymore, it bothers me.
Yeah.
But I do,
and I didn't warn you. That was my bad
spiritual
to not
connection.
let you know that.
But also I think we're both in, like, you're holding days, and it's like, how do we stay in this moment or in this connected state or in this thought or in this spiritual feeling when this dude is just doing his antics? Like, that just doesn't work.
Yeah. Anything that gets us some time without days.
My point is, when you drop him and he's, having fun and enjoying his time there, it allows us to connect to what's happening there fully. And I do think that matters. I also like the part about, like, obviously with it does have a remnants. It's way, like, nicer and organized than the church I went to growing up, but we had to go to CCD every morning, but every Sunday morning, like, growing up in that, in a faith tradition, I think has a pretty big impact, as we talked about the last episode. And it's, like, cool to think about, okay, him progressing in that, if that's where, like, there's comfort in that it's like a situation where he can set up and have fun and enjoy things and grow and understand and be taught, while we are also having our time at the same time to have the spiritual experience we want to have.
I agree. I'll keep playing it cool. We'll see how it goes. We're just, like, in the talking phase right now. We're not dating. I haven't asked him about our next date yet. We're just, like, we're texting. We're talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That worked out well for us.
Texting and talking here. Yeah. Hey, when we text and talk, we just end up married for life.
That was my point.
Exactly. So maybe that'll be the next time. Just to, like, bring it back. It's interesting the impact that, like, do you feel like it had an impact on your mental state outside of just those, like, 25 minutes? Like, is it a bigger picture thing that you think, like, is something that affects or could bolster your mental health?
I don't think it's necessarily just my mental health. I would hope it would be, like, in actions and practice, like, that's, how we live life. I do think over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of the things that are of value to, that, to be living a life worthy of God, or also how you want to treat your partner and live in life. Like, those, they are kind of this moral foundation we talked about last week. A lot of it's the same stuff. So I think I've already, changed a lot of things in life in terms of how to operate to live to that standard, but I do think there'd be different things that would come into my mind in terms of and then how you handle some things and having and maybe being able to process some stuff, and maybe I think actually, as I'm talking through, probably like a mental health aspect to having a relationship with God, where you are, as we said before, having these internal narratives, like, having that conversation and believing that there's some connection or somebody listening, I think is an important conversation or important thought. So yes, there's, I imagine it probably would, but I would want it to also have, continued action in life too, and obviously an impact on days too.
Me too.
Way to play that one cool too. Yeah.
Really cool. We haven't done the good before we go in a long time. Do you have anything?
I gotta prepare for that. If I was already had enough to espouse my religious thoughts, feelings, and emotions, which I haven't done or haven't.
That was in
about 3 decades. Seemed like enough.
That was the good before we go for me. That wasn't, but that was good before we go. The last 2 things that I have to say before we go are, I have a text message chain with my 2 sisters. In the last hour, I've missed 47 text messages.
Sweet.
So I'm hoping that this is the good before we go, that these 47 text messages are going to be good ones. If it wasn't, they would call.
Sure, it's just nonsense.
The other good before we go.
Hold on, do you have like real conversations with your sisters or friends that require, like, you think there's going to be like a real thing going on there? Because mine are just complete nonsense 99% of the time.
I see a lot of laughing faces as I'm looking at it.
Nonsense is
this feels good. Yeah, this feels like it's going to be a good thing. Okay. Second of all, and maybe more importantly, I'm now at the point in my life where Chick-fil-A is sending me push alerts. So things are going well.
Folks, let me just be real quick here. I'm going to say this publicly. I alluded to it. You can be. I'll love you either way, obviously. Mm-hmm. and I've lived this life. We talk about not judging, talk about religion and trying not to judge people. I think that's been a big thing. I do not, as a guy that used to walk around with a gavel in his hand, has now said, like, I do not possess this gavel. You know, thou can't cast the first stone. You can't go to the gym and go to Chick-fil-A afterwards.
Yes, you can.
You just can't do that. What was the point of going to the gym?
Because it was the time that I had. And if I didn't go then, I wouldn't have gone. But we did have a night out the night before. And I was not feeling great. And while some of us think going to the gym makes us feel better because we sweat it out.
Yeah.
Others of us think Chick-fil-A and a large Coke with light ice helps us feel better.
Light ice.
Chandler's now calling me.
Tell Chandler.
Is everything good? I'm doing a podcast.
What are you doing?
Okay, love you. I saw a 50 text message. Goodbye.
Thanks, Chan.
Everything's good.
All right,
she was calling because I had responded. Some of us need Chick-fil-A to make sure that our day is set up for success after we have had a rare night of going out with our friends. I tried your thing of working out. It didn't work.
You did.
And I went to Chick-fil-A.
I see that. Now, I didn't realize at the time we had two very different nights. Your boy was fine. Your girl, not so much. I was unaware of the level of it, what you were feeling, and that you were going to be hungover. I thought I
wasn't hungover. I was okay. That was preemptive. I didn't feel great. And if I have Chick-fil-A and a Coke.
My lady. You didn't feel great. You made it feel okay. You definitely were in a different state than I was. I know that much.
That's true, because I had 2 glasses of wine to start.
Whatever. I don't know what happened, but
it's the wine. I'm telling you. That's why if I have a vodka soda, then I'm fine. If I have wine, I'm like, let's hang out.
That's the weirdest. That's literally nobody operates like that. I know you do. It's bizarre. One other thing that you just noted there that just happened that I have to touch on. That's why we're going to leave it in the pod. I don't know if I have a single person in my life if I don't answer a text message for days. I don't know how long the text messages have to go unanswered before somebody called me to see if I was okay. Like, even my mother, it would have to be like 5 days. Just be like, you have not responded. Are you okay? Which has happened. That's the only one. I don't have a single friend in the world that would, if I didn't respond to a text, it would be like, are you okay? You went 40 minutes out responding to your psycho sisters, and you get a phone call. I say psycho with love because you guys are crazy.
I think the conversations have been about Mother's Day and my mom's birthday, which are a day apart this year, always very close together. And I usually weigh in a lot on those things. And Chandler's text says, I just called Kelsey to make sure everything was okay since she hasn't responded. But her and DC are doing a podcast. She answered.
Why are you reading this over the air here?
Because I'm telling you like how it all plays out. Because they were calling, partly because they were worried and partly because they wanted my opinion on something that they were trying to do for a mom. Also,
it's been 45
if my parents don't answer my FaceTime, which means me and Dace are calling, if my mom doesn't answer, I call my dad. If my dad doesn't answer, I call my mom, vice versa, whoever gets the call first. If they both don't call back, I immediately check their locations to make sure that they are okay.
Seems rational.
Because something must be wrong if you're not answering.
Yeah, who could ever be busy and not answer a FaceTime? How is it possible?
That is also not my parents.
How we work with our
not
parents.
Dace's grandparents. Not Grumpin' Hat.
Actually, yeah. When my parents were your parents' age currently, when I called, because I was in my mid-20s too, I'd be like, "What are they doing? Answer the phone!" Like I would be shocked.
I'm calling to tell you about my chicken nuggets that I burnt. Like what could possibly be more important?
If I'm calling, because it was usually something actually important. Like I was never calling. I didn't call a lot to just shoot the breeze. Not in like the middle of the day. I'd call like on a Sunday night and see what's going on. Very different.
Thank God for moms and dads. I hope the kids want to call us one day.
Leo will always want to call me. Dace, I don't know. We'll find out. I just don't know if he's going to too much like his father. Who knows? We'll find out.
He's going to want to call you.
He'll be like his mom.
He'll call me.
He'll call me every day.
Monster truck show. He's an emotional little guy.
There you go.
Thought that was going to be the time of his life. He was scared. He is an emotional little guy too. Let me tell you one last thing. Okay. Dropped him off at Denise's this morning. Brought cotton candy grapes that we cut up for all of his friends because he was chowing on them this morning and kept wanting more. So I surprised him by putting some in a bag to bring to Denise's for him to share with his friends. Our dude was so pumped. I told him he had to sit down and eat them. He immediately sat down right where he was. And then he had to go sit at the table at Denise's. So Denise felt bad and gave him a grape because he was trying so hard. And then I asked him if he wanted to share with his friends. I've never seen him move so fast. And then his little friend Lukey got there, and Lukey was having a hard time leaving his dad. He ran over to Luke, to give him a grape. I said, do you want to go share a grape with Luke? Popped up, go give Luke a grape. Do you know what he does?
Puts it in his mouth.
Puts it in his mouth. He's hand feeding Luke grapes to get him to come to preschool class.
That was almost the first days free pod of like random stories, but we got a couple in there.
Thank God, because that is the love of my life. So why would we not talk about him every time?
The love of your life. There it is. Well done, Ben. From number 2 here. That's a podcast. Deuces.